Welcome to Blinkers Off with your hosts, Jared Welch and Aaron Halterman.
What's going on? I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. It's Thursday, December 14th, and this is Blinkers Off. What's up, man?
What's up, everybody? Good to see you. It's going to be a fun weekend ahead. It's Remington Park Springboard Mile Day, almost. It's Thursday while we record this. Tomorrow, Remington Park Springboard Mile. Get tied on. Get excited.
You get the Derby prospects galore of the race. I don't know if I've ever seen. I feel like seen more like 20-1 shots in a race than that one.
Yeah, I would agree. It's it definitely is. I don't really know what it is. I think it's a pretty good race. The top two or three. Then after that, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it always feels like this race is one that at least for a hot second, the winner, you're like, oh yeah, I'm interested in that one. What happens from there? I mean, you're the Remington king here. You annihilated our friend John Lees on the Trivia Tuesday. If you guys haven't seen that, you guys need to go check that out. It's on our YouTube channel. Really good stuff. That's a new segment that Magic's put together that we're going to continue, I think, throughout the Derby Trail. But you're the Remington guy. So how many? What kind of was that a question, like Remington success in the Kentucky Derby?
I think there may have been who was the first Springboard Mile winner to run in the Derby or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but it hasn't been great as far as producing Springboard Mile to Kentucky Derby winners. That's for sure. But there's been some good ones. We'll take charge. It was definitely one of them. Caleb's Posse, Breeders' Cup winner, obviously. So, a Senior Buscadors turned out to be pretty decent. So there has been some good ones in there. But yeah, I mean, overall, it definitely it hasn't been the greatest producer for Triple Crown success. That's for sure.
Well, I guess it's weird too. You'd almost, again, I don't have it. Like I'd have to research it, but it feels like it's been more successful for horses that did not win the race, versus the winners.
For sure. Yeah, Caleb's Posse will take charge. Those are two of those that didn't win. Caleb's Posse wasn't even close. And then, of course, we'll take charge. Gets second, loses just by a little bit there to Texas Bling at 99-1. But yeah, those horses did go on to run much, much better. It's odd how that's happened. You think about winners of the race, like a Long Range Toddy did win the Rebel later on. Thinking about recent years, Gray Vitos, I think, would have been a pretty good horse, but he got injured. So that obviously kind of derailed his chances. But yeah, I mean, it is like a lot of 2-year-old races this time of year and even a little bit before. Sometimes the horse that's the best now isn't quite the best when those big races, finally come around.
So we got that one this weekend for Derby points. You also have the Futurity, Los Alamitos Futurity, which is might as well at this point. The Starlet and the Futurity might as well be called the Bob Baffert Derby prep race. So the 2-year-old Bob Baffert horse that you need to know from each division, basically. I mean, it just feels like this time of the year he's going to have a couple in each race, and you're going to figure out which one's the best out of that group. And past that, I don't know what more you learn out of it. Although you did say, Yak Team won this race last year to Practical Move. So Yak Team has one in here this year. Are you thinking we have something with some of these horses?
Boy, Los Al's always tough. It's always tough to tell what the motivation is coming into this race, and the track plays kind of weird as well. It did produce, or it has, not just Practical Move, but just in the past, good horses have run here, and then some years it's pretty weak. It's really tough for me when it comes to Kentucky Derby and the Baffert horses because you just have no idea what's going to come of them because of the situation going on with him in the Derby. So it's hard for me to say. I really liked a couple of the horses when they broke their maidens. So maybe, I guess, would be the best answer. But it's these Los Al races, it's tough to get a gauge on them.
I'm trying to go through. Man. Baffert won it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years in a row. And then Doug O'Neill, then Yak Team won it last year. Spielberg, I'm just looking at the Bafferts. Slow Down Andy won for O'Neill, but Spielberg, 1,000 Words, Improbable, McKenzie, Mastery, More Spirit, Dortmund. Dortmund obviously very, very good. A bunch of those were good horses, but not necessarily the Derby success out of that group.
Right. Yeah. And that's just it. It's just a kind of a weird race for the Derby. And listen, maybe Practical Move would have kind of broken that, right? If he would have been healthy for the Derby. So, I mean, there's other ways you could look at it too. I mean, it's overall, it's been a pretty good race over the years, considering we usually have, 6 horses in it or less sometimes, so you can't really judge it too harshly. It's been all right.
I definitely would say you look at that group and you say, like, out of that, like, at the very least, at the end of that race or the end of the year or whatever, you're like, okay, well, Improbable is the real deal. McKenzie is the real deal. Dortmund's the real deal. Mastery
Yeah.
is you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
so if nothing else, it definitely feels like a race, the Los Al Futurity, that we see something out of Bob Baffert's kind of 2-year-olds right now. Maybe it's not his top 2-year-old or whatever, but it definitely feels like it's like a funnel or like a filter of kind of what out of those Bob Bafferts in that race, kind of which ones that are the most impressive right now.
Yep, for sure. And I think everybody's like, well, Nisos right now looks like the best, and then we kind of filter on out after that. And I guess if a horse like Wind Me Up wins the race, you go, well, Muth is definitely really good,
Yeah.
or you go the other way and go, well, Wind Me Up won, so the other horses behind him may not be good. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can kind of look at it, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it is right now, is just trying to get a feel. And when you got one trainer and he's got so many and none of them can actually run in the race under him, it just makes a weird kind of situation.
Yeah, Shawty likes Coach Prime out of that one, at least kind of to see, what, like, that's one of the Bafferts. You got Wind Me Up, you mentioned, and you also have Weinstock in there as well for Bob Baffert. So definitely feels like Coach Prime or Wind Me Up. Wind Me Up, if people remember, was in the Breeders' Cup juvenile, and almost said the Futurity. And but yeah, so I mean, obviously, did not run well that day. Coach Prime kind of feels like maybe the new shooter of that bunch, but we'll see. We'll get to that race here in a second. What's I'm trying to think. What's how you feel? How you feeling about the Chiefs offsides? Do you think
Don't care.
you think it was the right call?
I mean, he was offsides, so yeah, I think
That's
so.
that's all we're talking about right now in my world. So
I read the article and the referee said he couldn't see the ball because he was so offside. So if your line of sight of the ball is blocked, you can't tell when it snapped. I guess you have to call it. I don't know.
actually, I saw a video today that literally you can see the ref kind of go like it's like an angle kind of behind him, sort of, and the ref kind of right before the snap, he like goes like this to see the ball.
To see the ball. So
It's one of those things. I think that honestly, I wasn't even mad. I mean, I was mad from like,
yeah,
what you doing, Tony? But I wasn't mad from why do you call that? Like a lot of people are. I feel like, I can't believe you call that right there. It's like, well,
right.
what do they? I mean, it was the right call. Like it's not like it was like a phantom hold or a phantom PI. I mean, and I always say this to people. It's like, well, how about the fact that Mahomes threw a pick earlier in the game, or that Rashee Rice had a critical fumble earlier in the game. Like, there's always things that you can look at. All you gotta do is line up on sides. That's all you gotta do. And Dan Orlovsky had I don't know if you saw this, but like, he went through and reviewed the whole game where Tony lined up, or when he was on the field, and he lined up. I think it was like 4 different times he lined up offsides. I mean,
I know. I also read in the article, they're like, when it's close, we'll tell them scoot back or come up or whatever. Like, they are the kind of there to help them, but they're like, in this situation, there was no like telling him. He was way too far offside. So I think at the end of the day, what's happened with Kansas City is they're not used to being in a lot of close games. And when you're in close games, these kind of things happen for and against you, right? And you just haven't had a lot of close games in Kansas City where this has been against you, and I think you look back even to last year's Super Bowl when you were in a close game and you got a call that did go your way. A lot of times that's what decides close games, close calls, and do you get them basically?
Well, and even further, that is not only are we in close games because the line, it's so thin this year, but because you're paying Mahomes, because you're paying Jones and Kelsey and those guys. Well, what do you have left? You have young wide receivers, right? Young wide receivers who aren't very good. Like, let's be honest, and they're making mistakes. It's not really that hard to figure out what's happening in Kansas City. And so to your point, not only are you in close games, but now you're depending on guys, because you're triple boxing Kelsey. And shit, even whenever you get a catch and Kelsey becomes a quarterback in a play, they still mess it up. It's just,
I think that's the worst of it. I mean, that was just a play where it's like, what are you doing? Oh my God, it worked type of thing. And it'll get remembered by you guys, but like most of us have moved on and we'll never really kind of remember that, that was crazy. Like, I don't know of any other player in the NFL that would have done that. It's one thing to, like, if the guy's standing right behind you and you like pitch it back to him, he threw it like across the field.
Yeah, like halfway across the field. And dude, like, it was contested. Like, the Bills dude jumped up. Like, it was wild. I mean, and the fact that it would have won the game, I mean, who knows? Maybe it wouldn't have. But it just made it that much worse of a kind of a scenario. But like, I'm at a point now where, how like everybody, all my fans, all the Turtle fans on the podcast here, where I got to a point in the season where you're just like, listen, like, it is what it is. Like, I can only do so much with what I have, right? That's just what it is. And that kind of feels like not only with the coaching staff, but like for me personally as a fan, you're just like, I mean, this is it. Like, we just have to ride this one out, and you're going to have to take the lumps along the way. The good news is the AFC sucks. It's so bad. And so they're probably not going to get the 1 seed at this point, but shit, I wouldn't be surprised if they made it back to the Super Bowl. I also wouldn't be surprised I wouldn't be surprised, Halterman, if they didn't win the division. How about that?
If you look at their schedule, they really should, but you never know. It is the NFL. I mean, their schedule looks like it's going to set up pretty well for them. But
for sure, they should not lose a game out from here on out. But
I mean, I guess you're 100% right, but I think they're just in a situation where they're kind of a normal good NFL team versus a kind of a special good NFL type of team, and normal good NFL teams do tend to lose games here and there they shouldn't, and that's kind of where they're falling now. And they don't have enough playmakers. And I mean, you can debate about 100 different kinds of things, but at the root of the problem, it's that they just don't have the playmakers.
Last thing I'll say about it, and I think this kind of magnifies the whole situation. Yeah, because like Curtis kind of says, they're rolling out 5 borderline incompetence at wide receiver, and to even further that, it's like I was watching the Bengals game the other night. I think it was the Monday night game or whenever it was, but it was a night game, and it's like, okay, you've got Chase, you got Higgins, and you got Boyd. That's like their 3 guys, right? They're 3 wide receivers. I said, like, Boyd would be our wide receiver 1. Even there's no debate on that. He would be our like if he went to the Chiefs right now, he would be your wide receiver 1. On top of that, is Sky Moore going to play anywhere in the NFL?
No.
I mean, MVS, is he like a wide receiver 3 on some shitty team? Maybe. Like, I mean, Rashee Rice, I think, is a promising guy. I think he's got a ton of talent.
He's okay.
Tony, I mean, the Giants didn't want Tony. It's like you look at who you have, and when you realize like Chase is elite, Higgins is not Chase, but he's very, very good. Boyd would be your wide receiver 1, and that's like an afterthought on the Bengals, and so it just kind of magnifies to me like what we're dealing with on the wide receivers.
Remember Thanksgiving, we're watching Green Bay, and I can't remember who we said. I think number 9 for Green Bay. What's his name? Watson. We were like, that guy is who the Chiefs need, you know?
Yeah.
I watch Tampa a lot, and it's like Tampa, like Godwin, that he'd be great. He'd be number one for the Chiefs, you know, and
Yeah.
he's serviceable, but he's not like a great player, you know. So it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, they have the worst wide receivers in the league, especially if you count Kelsey as not a wide receiver but a tight end, you know.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's like it's hard to say. Like you can legitimately make a case that they lost 3 games easily, based just solely on the wide receiver. That's it. Like 100%. At least 3 games, and that's pretty spectacular, really. When you think of
really, all the blame on a wide receiver is you hardly ever have that, and they have it this year, like you said, multiple times.
And I think I think with the Mahomes thing, like everyone's like he acted like a baby on the sidelines, and he did come back and say, yeah, I regret how how I acted. But I think what happened is it's like if you're a parent or not even a parent, like if you just it's like when you're dealing with all kinds of stresses or whatever in your life, and then something happens very minor or something minor compared to what you've been dealing with, and all of a sudden you just blow up. You just had enough. That's it. Like you can't do it anymore. Fuck this. And I think that's what happened. Like he's been dealing with the wide receiver drops and the constant, the penalties and whatever. And he's been great. Like he doesn't put any blame on anybody else. He never blames a wide receiver. And then this happened, costs the game, and he of course lashes out at the refs. And I think I don't really think that he couldn't go to Tony and be like, what are you doing, you dumbass? That might happen behind closed doors, and I hope it does. But he can't do that on the sideline.
I think he was protecting his player more than anything else. I think he knew that, people around here are stupid and they'll give him death threats, basically, talking about Tony. And I think he thought, well, I'll make it about the refs. And honestly, it worked. Like that's all people were talking about around here for the first couple of days of this thing. And so I think that was a lot of it. I think he kind of knew what was coming for Tony. And look, he knows, as sad as it is, they have to have him. Right? Like there's nobody walking through the room going to help him. So he's going to have to find a way to keep that kid's confidence up somehow. And maybe that's the way. I don't know.
Yeah, they keep going. Oh yeah, that's still our guy. That's still I have all the faith in 1-9 is what Kelsey said the other day. And wow. No, Rodney, we have not. We just got on a tangent here about the Chiefs because it's on my mind. But great way to segue because we need to get over that and go to today's show where we're going to preview and get picked for the $300,000 Remington Springboard Mile and the $200,000 Los Alamitos Futurity. Grade 2. Both are Kentucky Derby prep races. So we'll talk more about that and what that means for the 2024 Kentucky Derby. Then we're going to have some rapid fire selections for some of the remaining stakes races going on this weekend around the country. Let's go. You're good. Yeah. Good. I needed someone to come in here and break up my. I could have kept going. So appreciate it. Yeah, I feel like I'm a pretty reasonable fan, and I'm not one to get too mad about. This is like, hey, I've reached the acceptance level pretty quick here. Just like this is what it is. Like we're gonna have to ride this one out. It's not like we're getting a wide receiver traded to us right now. It's not like these guys are going to magically figure it out like in an immense way between now and next month. So you just say, well, this is what it is. And, you got to get ready for the heartbreak. As the Chiefs fans, we're pretty good about it.
Yeah. All true, all fair. That's just what it is.
All right, let's kick things off here in Oklahoma. Let's go to race 10 at Remington Park, the Remington Springboard Mile Stakes. This is on Friday, so tomorrow, December 15th. Race number 10, 300K purse, 1 mile, and this is a Kentucky Derby prep race. 10, 5, 3, 2, 1 for your top 5 finishers. You got a field of 9 here, Halterman. Lining up 5-2 on Odo the Conqueror for Asmussen. You got Doug O'Neill's gotten here, Raging Torrent at 3-1. and coming in, kind of got that West Coast form, but has been getting annihilated on the West Coast as well. And then Glengarry, the Iowa bred. I'll start with this one, or let you start with this one. Doug Anderson, 7-2, been running at Prairie Meadows, ran a nice race last time out as well. What do you think of this one, the Iowa bred? Can he come in and beat these horses and get some Kentucky Derby points?
Yeah, just kind of up in the air on this one. Not quite sure what the answer is there. I think this horse, I think he's pretty good, but he never went 2 turns, and I think that's going to be a big question mark. But I think showed last time out, it's not just an Iowa horse. It's definitely a horse that can compete elsewhere. You go to Keeneland, you win a stakes race, but it's each level, right? Like we're in Iowa. Okay, we kind of passed that level of maiden, and now we're really dominant in a stakes. Now we go outside and run in a smaller stakes 1 turn, we win again. Now this is the next level, right? And so that's going to be the big key. But look, I think you can't be too discouraged by the fact that Luis Saez is here, right? I mean, that's obviously a positive. So I think it's a really nice spot for him to take that next step, and it's going to be a tougher situation here. But anytime you go to Keeneland and you win a stakes race, you're pretty darn good and you're pretty darn legit. So that Iowa bred thing kind of goes away, and I just kind of look at him as a racehorse, right? And he's a pretty solid one. My biggest question mark is I just don't know about the 2 turns.
Yeah, that's kind of he looks fast. He looks very fast, but how far can he go? Going a mile here. He's been running, obviously against weaker and going 6 furlongs. But the fact that Iowa bred came out and like you said, and came to Keeneland and looked as good as he did, I mean, I think that says something. And the fact that Luis Saez, like you mentioned, was on him that day and stays aboard here, I'm interested. I don't know that I like him at all really moving forward necessarily from the Derby standpoint. I just don't know that he's going to be, a bred to go that far. But gate to wire, I don't know. I'm playing against here. I think the 3 Gettysburg Address could also cause some issues for him speed wise.
Yeah, now I can see that as well. And I think that's the other problem. When you look at this, there's a lot of speed in this race. And you get 2-year-olds, you get a lot of speed, you get them going 1 mile. That begins to get a little bit dicey. And not a lot of them at this age are really willing to kind of just be patient and sit off. So I think it's a really tough test for Glengarry. I do think he's the fastest of the bunch, but I think he's going to have some company in this race up front.
Yeah, and by the way, I see some comments in here. It's supposed to be raining all day. I mean, I do think it is going to rain. I mean, we live. I don't know how many miles are we from Oklahoma City here? About,
Well, we're 3 hours from my driveway to the front gate, so I don't know how many miles that
is. As some people say, as a crow flies, well, as Halterman drives,
right,
it is 3 hours. So to be fair, we are expecting some rain, I think, here in the next 24 hours. So obviously, could have some rain, but you know how it is. If you watch Blinkers Off enough, we don't. It's impossible to handicap. You handicap these races and guess one way or another because you never know how it's going to, what the weather is going to actually do.
I wouldn't worry about it until you get there and you see what happens. And listen, it's an all dirt. They do have a turf track, but they're not running any turf races, so it is what it is. It might be a little wet, it might not. And it's going to be hit and miss.
It's not snowing, at least. So
no, it probably won't play that much of a factor in things, honestly.
All right, so let's go to the favorite here, the 8, Odo the Conqueror, for Steve Asmussen. Gaffalione back aboard here after jumping on the Sun. It rode the horse a lot. First 2 starts, Gaffalione rode it in an allowance race at Churchill Downs last time out in the slot, by the way. So if you have that concern at all, there you go. But came out Halterman and just ran a huge race, big time buyer, beat some comeback winners as well in that race, and did it kind of for fun. Bred nicely, should get the distance no problem. Out of you're bred by or owned by 3 Chimneys Farm. To me this is a nice prospect.
Oh, I agree. I think this is a really good one. This can be my top pick in the race. I kind of think this horse, if you watch his races, he's not exactly headstrong to get the lead. He does get out in front, but I think it's more just natural ability. I don't think he will fight Gaffleone at all if he's not on the lead. So I'm not real worried about pace with him. My dad made a really good point. Last week we were talking about, when Keith Asmussen rides for Steve Asmussen, it may not be the absolute top of the barn. It's more of that second tier. But I thought it was a really good sign when Gaffleone got aboard that they thought, okay, this horse is coming along. This horse is doing really well. And that's really not a disrespect to Keith Asmussen. It's just that's kind of how it's been. So Gaffleone gets aboard in that last race, wins by 4. You saw big improvement from the horse. And look, if you're worried about the slop, the horse did win on a sloppy surface last time out. So you got that on its side as well. So I'm with you. Like, I think this horse might be a prospect, like a legitimate prospect.
Yeah, because listen, like, I guess the one big thing is if a Raging Torrent were to come in here and win, one thing you can believe is that this group sucks, because this is a horse that's just been getting smoked out west. Fair. He's been getting beat by Prince of Monaco twice and Muth, Wind Me Up, the American Pharoah, like he's ran back-to-back grade ones. Like, that's all fair, but they've not been close either. So if he were to come in and win in this group, that would tell you, one, Muth is really good, and obviously Fierceness would be as well. But 2, this is not a very good group.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I agree with that 100%. And we'll see. I just don't think you're going to get that whoa type of performance right out of this. But I do just think this is like a solid progressing type of horse. Talking about Otto the Conqueror, who's kind of earned his way into this spot. And I don't really think he's going to run away with him, but I could see a nice, solid effort out of him. I also, in that same regard, I think Gettysburg Address is another one, the 3 that, I didn't run all that well last time out. Second time going along this time, maybe this one gets a little bit better. Flavian Pratt gets aboard here too. I thought he was kind of the one that was interesting outside of the 8 and the 5.
Yeah, I definitely think it's interesting that Flavian is coming in to ride for this horse. That last race, looked good on debut. Went off. Wasn't the favorite on the street since, but went off at a semi-short price. Got the sloppy track, got the lead, and then kind of weakened late. So that was a mile 16th. Maybe the cutback will help a little bit. I don't, what we've learned, right, Halterman, is you can't take that one race from a young, 2-year-old horse and say, well, that horse isn't any good. You got to get him another try. And so if you still like Gettysburg Address, I mean, the price should be right here on him. You mentioned, though, on the Trivia Tuesday, Brad Cox hasn't won this race before. That was an interesting. You would have thought he would have. I feel like he's had a ton of horses in the race.
Yeah, he usually does. Sometimes his horses come to Remington and just don't run very well overall. He brings them on Oklahoma Derby Day and this day, and a lot of them just don't really show up with their best. His best chance at it was Answer In a few years ago, and my God, had every chance to win the race and just couldn't do it that day. If you remember, kind of got a weird trip, and then you kind of learn later that's just a weird horse. He's just kind of dumb and doesn't want to do what he's supposed to do. So, but that was a heartbreaking loss that day for him. But yeah, I think the 3 Gettysburg Address is, I think he's a little dangerous in the spot. I really do. I think he's inside speed. I think he's kind of the one that'll inherit the lead once it's all said and done. He may end up costing the 5 the race a little bit. Those 2 might kind of knock heads and maybe set it up for the 8. That's kind of the way I looked at it. But I think the 3's presence in the race makes it tough for the 5 and vice versa. They seem a little bit faster than the rest of this field.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how those 2 play out. I'm with you, though. My top pick in the race is going to be the 8, Odo the Conqueror. Yours as well, 5-2 on the morning line. Got to think he's going to be bet fairly hard, especially with that sloppy form if the track does come up sloppy tomorrow. But listen, let's do what we do every Derby prep. This one feels low. I based off of past years, I'm going to 0.5. 0.5 over under of entries that are going to run the Kentucky Derby out of this race? Not
I'd
the
say under.
winners, not the winner. Anyone that ran in this race.
Yeah, under. I'd go under.
I mean, based off history, I think that's the right call, right?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of look at it. I just don't see it. I really don't. I mean, Otto the Conqueror, you're going to have to see level improvement every race from him to get him to where he's at that point. Now, with the caveat being, sometimes horses that really shouldn't run in the Derby do actually go, like Long Range Toddy, but anyway,
well,
I don't know.
It just kind of feels like no matter what, like even best case scenario, there's only like probably one horse out of this group that could win or could, be in the Derby, and then then you got to get the horse there. You know what I mean? Yep. So to me, I'm with you. I think it's an under. I tried to bait you a little bit on that one. I was hoping you'd go over.
I again, it's just hard for me. I was talking about Answer In, like when he came here for this race, he had a look of one that this could be really good, and he never got any better whatsoever. And every year you do have one or two like that. When Gray Vitos came here and he won, I mean, you thought that's a top 5, top 8 type of horse, and it didn't work out. So even if Otto the Conqueror runs great, then it's all got to work out for the next 5 months, which is tough.
All right, let's move on to Saturday's Kentucky Derby prep race. This is let's go to Los Al for race number 9 against Saturday. Los Alamitos Futurity, Grade 2, 200K, going 1 and 1/16 miles. For 2-year-olds, of course, 2-year-old males. Field of 6 lines up here, and interesting race because it is a Derby prep race. So you got 10, 5, 3, 2, 1 for your top 5 finishers. There's 6 horses in the field, and 3 of them are trained by Bob Baffert. So everybody gets points in this race, apparently. Maybe. We'll see. But Bob Baffert obviously can't get points for the Kentucky Derby as we stand here today. I see you shaking your head. I feel the same way. But here we are. We still got to try to pick a winner of this race. And you've got Bob Baffert with 3, like I mentioned. 5-2 on Wind Me Up. But actually, Coach Prime, just to his inside, Pratt aboard there. So he comes back out here to ride for Bob Baffert after riding for Brad Cox on Friday at 2-1. So I ask you, is it Coach Prime, kind of the news shooter, so to speak, or is it Wind Me Up looking to rebound after a poor performance in the Breeders' Cup?
Yeah, I'll take Coach Prime in this spot. I'll take the kind of the up and coming one versus the one that's dropping down from the big company and moving into a little bit softer situation. I was super impressed with Coach Prime's win last time out. I'm not like all in like Rodney is on this horse yet, because
who does Rodney like? Do you know?
But yeah, I know Rodney's like Coach Prime for like 2 months. Ever since that maiden win. So here's the deal: the maiden win couldn't have been much better. It was fantastic, and I wrote that horse down immediately. Okay, that's one, right? But it is a bit odd that the horse started off on the turf. Okay, that's just not something Bob Baffert really does. So that gets you a little bit worried, like, okay, what did he really think of this horse, right? But you do see the talent next out, and you definitely see, okay, well, the horse has talent. So how much, what they thought of that horse, forget about it. I've seen him on the track. He looked really good. So I'll take Coach Prime here for this one to win. This race is just not fun to me. And you kind of mentioned it with the Derby situation. We're going to start feeling it once again in these California races that they kind of just become. And look, I know like we had Practical Move last year and that was great, but when you run a race and half the horses can't get points for it, it just kind of sucks. And Baffert seems to have some good ones that are going to be in these races again. And I mean, it's hard to get excited about him really, but I am excited to watch Coach Prime here and to see, kind of get that answer of, okay, has he come along and he's really good now, or was last time just kind of a fluke and he's going to maybe not be so good? But he seems like a pretty nice horse coming into this race.
Yeah, and it's even more frustrating when you start talking about like, okay, not only are the points, these horses aren't getting points, but if you're not going to be able to run in the race, then these other horses aren't getting points, and so it's just taking points away from the whole thing, and so it's a mess completely. But anyways, yeah, I mean, I don't hate the pick. I that's between the two, 5 and 6, in my opinion. I'm going to go with the 6, Wind Me Up. With Los Al, the way it plays, I'm going to look at this horse going gate to wire. I don't know what really happened in the Breeders' Cup, whether it be just too tough, didn't like being inside, but this horse just, completely quit. Never really got to the lead that day. But, back in the American Pharoah, ran a really nice second to Muth, who obviously ran well in the Breeders' Cup. So he's better than what we saw in the Breeders' Cup, and then debut was good as well. I think he's fast enough. The way this horse has been working, I think he's fast enough as well to get to the lead. I also have the 2 in here for Bob Baffert, who looks like has some speed as well. It's kind of interesting to see how those kind of play out. Maybe they're just setting it up for the 5. But I like the 6 to just maybe try to take them gate to wire. The Coach Prime thing is interesting, right? Because it's a $1.7 million horse, which is no stranger to Zidan Racing, right? That's like all their horses are over $1 million, but it's a quality road out of a street sense mare, 1.7 million, like I said, and you start in a maiden special weight on the turf at Santa Anita. That
weird.
makes no sense whatsoever. Unless they just needed to get a start and that's what they chose. I don't know. Now, scratch that out and pretend that race never happened. He debuts, wins by 7 on the dirt. You're like, oh yeah, this is so. Maybe I'm overthinking it completely with that, but I do think it is interesting.
Anytime you see something like this, you got to take note of it. I totally agree with what you're saying, and that's why, like, in the pick 5, I can't single the 5 because that's still right there in the back of my mind. And I'm with you, like 5, 6, that would be where I would go as well. I'm really not interested in anybody else in here because to me, it's like 6 is going to get the lead, and is anybody good enough to come get them? If the 5 runs the last race, it'll be a race down the stretch.
Yeah.
But what if the 5 is just like, oh, we try turf, we'll see what happens this horse. Oh, let's try it on the dirt now. Some trainers, when you see that, it's not that big of a deal. But with Baffert, it's like, that's different. That's not what we're used to seeing. So it's kind of crazy.
Typically when you have a horse like that's, the primed up, no pun intended, but that it's like, okay, this, the route, it's going to be this small maiden special weight race at Santa Anita, go to allowance, go to stakes, and so the fact that this route is just, it's different for sure. And so it makes you wonder, but I think that I have no problem playing those 2 and just moving on. Because I do think it's either Wind Me Up goes to gate to wire or the 5 comes and gets him. I don't, what was that race? The Starlet last week, where you had kind of a similar situation, not very, but where you had a horse that was a little more gate to wire versus the new shooter sort of Baffert coming trying to get her and couldn't do it, right? And so maybe it's similar in that instance where you have a little bit more of the class edge for the 6 versus the 5.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. And it's the last thing, at least for me, when you get these 6-horse fields, especially at Los Al, the race is kind of wonky about how it shapes up and how it's run. And so that always kind of makes a weird kind of situation.
I just talked to Vegas. There's no betting allowed on the over-under of this race because of the Baffert's situation. Okay. So sorry, I cannot. I would say it seems too easy to say under, right, at this point. Because if you say over, you're betting on the fact that some sort of injunction happens again and allows him to run, which I don't see happening. So.
Which is always fun to bet, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we got in this game.
Yeah, that's really fun to bet on, like, oh, can you imagine another sports like, oh, so you're telling me he can run and play in these games, but he's not allowed to play in the Super Bowl if they get there. It's like, oh, that's weird.
I can't imagine anybody doing that. No, I just can't. You put it that way, and that's even a way I hadn't thought of it. It's like, that is truly insane.
Yeah, it's like, no, he can, like, he's allowed to play. It's fine, but if they win, it doesn't count.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, okay. Like, if you win this playoff game, the other team actually gets to move on, not you, because
right,
you're suspended, sort of.
just for this, just this entity of this situation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Other picture, you're not, but just here you are. So
It'd be like even if it's like, hey, you're suspended from the AFC Championship game. I mean, you can play in it, but or no, you can't play in it, but you still could go to the Super Bowl. What's happening? What is this? Yeah.
All right, guys. I got the 6. Wind me up. Halterman's got the 5. Coach Prime.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that, but that is kind of, I don't know.
Did I see that FSU is like filed some sort of legal thing to try to get in? Is that true?
I have no idea if that's true or not. I've heard people say it, but I haven't taken my time to research it because they're fighting a losing battle.
That's what I saw. That I didn't even look into it because I thought, well, that's interesting, but that's not going to work. So
yeah, it's like good for you guys. I understand, but you're not going to get anywhere with that. So.
All right, time for rapid fire. Let's go to let's stay at Los Al, I guess, but let's go to Friday. At Los Al. Race 8, the Bay Coast Stakes, grade 3, worth the 100K, going 1/1/16 miles for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. Halterman field of 7 lines up here, 6-5 on Desert Dawn for Diamato. What do you think here? And are you going to try to beat her?
Yeah, another one that's pretty boring for me. By the way, I have no problem with Los Alamitos at all. Their racing to me, just these stakes always kind of suck. They just can't get the field. I took the 7 Desert Dawn. It's kind of a cop out's probably not the right word, but it's kind of a boring pick. But it's just like I don't really know what else to kind of do with it. Looks like the best horse to me, getting class relief, obviously. So I took the 7 here.
Yeah, I went with the give me the Baffert here. Well, the one, the Baffert Midnight Memories at 2-1, kind of the second choice. This is a horse that likes this distance. I think the stretch out is what this horse kind of likes. You look at the last 2, you ran at 7 furlongs in Le Bray, finished 4th. Just never really got going there. Then Beholder Mile last time out, Dame Ray, Fun to Dream. But this is a horse that was making kind of a move there, and then just ran out of room. And I think the longer distance for this horse is what this horse wants. It's a versatile horse as well. Like it's shown the last 2 to kind of come off of it, but it has shown also in the past that can win gate to wire. So I think it gives Fernandez some versatility in the race as well. I think trying to beat Desert Dawn makes sense. It's just you're obviously taking you're taking the angle of, okay, you're getting the class relief here. Can she get it done now? And I think that's fair. She's only won once at this distance. That's was concerning. 10 starts at the mile distance or mile 16th distance, and only 1 win in those 10 starts. So I'm gonna try to beat her with the really shocker here with and I'm with you. It's like, okay, because even when you try to beat a favorite, you're like, oh, well, I got Baffert here. It's not. There's nothing sexy about.
Probably going to be like 6-5, 8-5, I guess, or 6-5, 7-5. Those 2, I don't know.
I wouldn't even be surprised, honestly, if the 1 goes off the favorite.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe so. Yeah.
It wouldn't. I mean, it's unlikely, but I think it wouldn't necessarily be surprising considering that Desert Dawn did not run well last out, and you got Bob Baffert.
Yeah.
In the on the trainer for that one, but all right. Remember when Ganadoro we thought was going to be really good?
I do.
Fun.
Yeah.
That was fun times back then.
She wasn't.
Spoiler alert, she was not good. All right, let's go back to Remington Park on what is it? Yeah, Friday undercard before the Springboard race 7, the Trapeze Stakes, 75K going 1 mile. This is for the fillies, 2-year-olds. It's not an official Oaks race. Why is this one not an Oaks race, but the Springboard is?
Good question. I'm really not sure what the answer is to that one, honestly.
It's the same race. It's what we are usually used to seeing, right? When you have the Derby and the Oaks Preps races on the same card, same thing, but just no Oaks points on the line. But Brad Cox has a horse in here, West Omaha, Pratt aboard this one as well. Maybe this is the horse Pratt really came in to ride.
It seems to me this is going to be the more likely of the 2 to win. I really like West Omaha a lot in here. This is another race where this horse has speed, but I don't think really necessarily has to have the lead. So I think, if there's not a lot of pace on, she can take him gate to wire. And if they go flying, I think she'll sit off the lead just fine. I really like West Omaha here. I didn't take much time on this one as far as, I guess I should say it didn't take me much time to handicap it because she just kind of looks better than everybody else. So give me the number 1 West Omaha in this one.
I mean, you got like what is this, like a 9-horse field, and 4 of them are 20-1.
Yep.
Like, it's just that not a great field, really. And on top of the fact that I think West Omaha looks pretty damn good, really. I mean, that debut ran well, just kind of ran well late, and then last time out, kind of figured things out a little bit more. I love the fact that Pratt gets the mount and the stretch out for a horse that obviously I think is going to want to go longer, is going to be fine. So I really do think West Omaha is, if you're telling me like which Brad Cox out of the springboard and out of this one am I more like interested in from a future standpoint, I think I would go with this one.
Mm-hmm.
This one just looks like, and we know like he's had success with these kind of horses for sure.
Yep, agree.
All right, let's go to we're both on number 1, West Omaha to win the trapeze. Let's go to race number 9. This is the Jeffrey A. Hawk Memorial. Well, sure, $75,000, going 1 mile and 70 yards. It is for 3-year-olds and up. Field of 11 shows up here, Halterman, and it's one of our favorite kind of races. The kind of the boulevard of broken dreams, so to speak. You got Pioneer Medina. Now with Brad Cox at 5-2. Promise Keeper, by the way, I was like, oh, I thought that horse was with Fletcher. Not anymore. So, Donnie's got one here at 5-1. You've got 7-2 on Presidential for Asmussen. What do you think of this one?
Well, I mean, Pioneer Medina only lost by 21 links last time out. So why not go right back to him, right? That's who I went with. Look, it's weird how bad that horse ran last time out. I gotta think he's gonna run better. Jared, it really wasn't all that long ago. This horse won a grade 3 race at Fairgrounds against like some decent horses. And
I know, right?
Ever since that win, it has been a disaster. 4 races, 3 times off the board. He did get 3rd in the Ben Ali, a race that would win this one if he can repeat that somehow. I just have to think somehow Brad Cox is going to get this horse to run a little bit better. Flavian Pratt aboard here. I just think this horse will run better in this spot. Can't run worse, that's for sure. So I did go with the 10.
Listen, I have a rule that when you in the past 2 starts, I can't pick a horse that's lost by like a combined 30 links. I can't do it. I get Brad Cox certainly should help. He can't run worse, all those things. He's certainly better than that, but I can't take a short price on a horse that's just been getting annihilated. Mm-hmm. I went with the 8 Chrome Baby, the Donnie horse, California Chrome horse. This is he's looked good the last couple of starts. He's been a horse that I feel like has kind of been the Remington Park specialist. Is ran well at times. I mean, why am I telling you anything? This horse probably through and through, right?
You, yeah.
So it's kind of a bad thing that you didn't pick him, I think.
Well, I wouldn't take it that way. It's just a situation for me. It took a while, right? We finally got this horse kind of going, but I don't really love who the horse has beaten in comparison to now we're up against this group. So that's kind of my worry, I guess, on that one a little bit. But 2 nice wins for sure. It just kind of took a while to get there with this one. And look, I mean, very, very consistent. I do think the horse will be around. I question if the horse is good enough to win at this level.
It's fair, right? And we're gonna find out the class test because this is a horse that's loves Remington, right? 12 starts, 4 wins, 3. Mm-hmm. I mean, he runs well pretty much every time at Remington. But the class test will be interesting. I do think the pace setup will be nice, and the distance obviously shouldn't be a concern. But yeah, you're gonna have that test of like, okay, top the stretch. Is he gonna go? Is he gonna give it up? I went more with the horse that's been running well but has something to prove versus the horse that you could have beat the last couple starts, but also has the bad class, so and a shorter price. So give me the 8 Chrome Baby at a little bit of a price. All right, let's go to. Oh, I see a comment here. I'll help this newcomer, this new fan. We can help her out with
Yeah.
giving her some picks for this race. Did you see that
Let's
comment?
do it. I love this race.
By the way, how awesome is racing where we have the same race names at different tracks. So it's the H. Allen Jerkins Handicap, not the Memorial, but it's also ran at Gulfstream on the turf going 2 miles versus a sprint at Saratoga.
Right. It's
Anyways, welcome to horse racing. Let's go to Gulfstream Park, race 11, Saturday, the H. Allen Jerkins Handicap. Again, 100K, 2 miles on the turf for 3-year-olds, and field of 10 shows up here. And, you've got kind of the list of turf trainers out there at Gulfstream Park. Value Engineering at 2-1. You've got 5-2 on McLovin, which is a great name. Delacour. Pletcher's got one, 6-, 6-1 on Lynch. Motion, you make it. You kind of got your pick here as far as of options. I thought this was a very interesting race to handicap. What do you think?
Oh yeah, this one's always a fun one. I always look forward to this one. I kind of went back and forth between 4 or 5 of these. I ended up on number 3, Swore, at 12-1. You just look at like experience going long on the turf. This horse has it. Has broke the maiden 2 races back at Kentucky Downs, going 1.5 miles. Went to an allowance. Got 4th, going 1 mile and 3/8. I think the horse will like the stretch out to 2 miles, which is something you say once a year when you handicap this race and no other ones. But I think the horse, is kind of made for this race. And if we can get 12-1, I would be pretty shocked. I think the horse will get bet down. But I think number 3, Swore, is kind of the one that's going to enjoy the distance the most.
Hey, by the way, shout out Dr. Miranda got married last weekend. Yes. So where does the name change? He's still got the old name. Or is she one of those kind of girls that just doesn't change the name? You think?
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't even noticed. Huh?
We'll see what she. But no, I don't know if this is good or bad. Probably bad, but I'm on Swore as well at 12-1. That was my top pick. I really don't need to say anything else. You kind of said it all. I thought this was a horse that. Going longer will run well off the 1 3/8, like you said, 1.5 miles has ran well at those distances, but clearly kind of looks like a horse that needs to go longer somehow. T-Gaff gets back in the irons, and obviously with T-Gaff and Motion they team up quite well, hitting that 30%. So I mean, 12-1 seems too high, but I think we'll get a lot of it, don't you?
I do. I think maybe 6-1, perhaps. I don't think we're going to get 12-1, especially since both of us have just picked her, or picked him, I should say. So I think it'll be more like 6-1. But I think you're going to get a good enough price. I think you got to go into it realizing it's not going to be double digits.
No, and to me, it's like when you look at a horse like Value Engineering, who's your 2-1 favorite, you're like, okay, well, this is a horse that's just. Got 7th last time out. Of course, I was on synthetic, but still got 8th the last time before that, 8th time before that. It's been a minute since this horse has looked good. It's kind of a very similar situation as of the last race, where it's like, well, he has shown to win nice races. He's ran well at Gulfstream Park, but those last couple have been bad.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I don't know. This is a weird race. Like, I wouldn't want to take that horse at that price. I think that's what it all comes down to. And that's why I kind of went back and forth. It's like, the number 4 F5, it's like, yeah, but that was a pretty bad race last time when we stepped up, and you mentioned the one, like you said, and, the 8 McLovin, I love the name, but I don't know that horse is really going to be that great here. So yeah, that's why I decided I'm going to take a little bit of a shot here.
All right. Yeah, you and I are both on a long shot here. So there you go, Dr. Moran. You got to play this one. Number 3, Swore. All right. Let's go to the last one here. Go to Oaklawn Park for their Christmassy names. Let's go to race 9 on Saturday, the Tinsel Stakes, worth $200K. Going 1 mile and 1/8. This is for 3-year-olds and up. Field of 7. lines up here. Speed Bias. My boy Speed Bias can't get the job. Can he get the job done here? What do you think of this race?
I don't know. You probably didn't watch the preview I did for this on the website, but I was like, there's like no doubt Speed Bias is the best horse in the race. But it's like, you talk about a horse that cannot find the winner circle in spots where not just spots, but in 10 yards from the wire. It's like, okay, he's got it today. Speed Bias just finds a way to lose races. And I think he's the best horse in the race, but I can't pick him in this one. I took Strong Quality, the 2 horse. I think number 2 Strong Quality is one of those horses that isn't great, but this field isn't great. I mean, you're catching Speed Bias, you're catching Dennington, Seeds the Night. These aren't great horses. And if you can just kind of get out in front of them, I think you'll beat them. So I took number 2 Strong Quality on top.
Speed Bias is one of those interesting horses that it kind of feels like no matter if the race is an allowance race or if it's a graded stakes race, he's going to run the same exact way.
Yep.
Like you look at the Fayette last time out, looked like a winner, couldn't get the job done. Same goes in an allowance race, couldn't get the job done. Looks like a winner, can't get the job done. I'm with you. I have no faith. Like he's going to beat me, right, at some point, because I'm at that point now with him where it's just like I can't. I've bet him too many times to keep betting him and losing money that I'm okay at this point to say, okay, let him beat me when that time ever comes. But give me the now. Listen, my disclosure of this pick is that the price needs to stay in this area at 5-1. The 7 Dennington for McPeak. Le Peru gets the mount. He's. I mean, you really don't need any introduction to McPeak horse. Has been one of those horses that has looked really good at times and has looked really poor at times. The last 2, though, have been really nice races for him at the 1 1/8 and at a mile last time out. Closed nicely in both of them. WHNL beat him the time before that, but then came back and won and looked really good last time out at Churchill Downs going a mile. So I think the distance is not a concern. My thing is like maybe the pace will help this horse like enough to where he can come closing and get it and nail him here late. Like Speed Bias, like and Strong Quality, both horses you mentioned with speed. Maybe he can get the job done and kind of mow him down late. So give me the 7 Dennington.
I wouldn't be shocked if he does get that pace set up. I wanted to mention with Speed Bias, who's on an 8-race losing streak right now. But 6 of the 8 losses have come by 1 1/4 or less. And 5 of them have come by 3/4 of a length or less. So shows you the margin of error. And if he turns 2 or 3 of those races around, how differently you would think about this horse. And the other 2 losses, one was in the grade 1 Stephen Foster, where he was just over his head. And the other one, he got second, but he got blown out by Bright Future, who went on to be a graded stakes winner, obviously. So, I mean, honestly, if he flips, like I said, 2 or 3 of these races, you're looking at this horse, you're saying, well, this could be an older horse to keep an eye out on this year. Yep. And instead you look at him and go, well, he just can't finish a race.
I had this horse in the Pimlico Special.
Yep.
The Stephen Foster. I think I used him. Those 2 allowance races.
Yep.
I had him every time, especially those 2 allowance races at Saratoga. I was like, oh, I love this horse. I mean, I specifically remember the first loss when Bright Future got him. But, it's like, okay, I get it, like Bright Future. And then so you bet him back. It's like, not only did you lose that race, you got 3rd in that race.
That race, because I remember you were live to Speed Bias for a shit ton. Mm-hmm. I think it was it a double?
It was a double, yeah. And I singled him.
And we were watching that race. We weren't together, but we were watching it together, basically texting back and forth that day. And I remember texting up the backstretch. It's like, if not today, I just don't know when. The perfect trip, alone on the lead, everything going well. Mid-stretch, I'm like, he's got it. And like you said, not only does he lose, he doesn't even get second. He misses by a neck, though. I mean, I've never watched the race and been just like, I don't know when this horse can win. Like, what is it going to take at this point?
I mean, because he had IRAD on him that day. It was the perfect ride, the perfect setup. And it's like, not like the distance, because it's like sometimes the distance just seems fine. And other times, even like when he goes shorter, he still gets caught. Like he's a baffling horse. And I'm sure Moquette is thinking the same thing. Like, what do I need to do to get this horse in the winner's circle? But Until proven otherwise, I'm playing against them. I got the 7 Dennington. Halterman's taking the 2 strong quality. Yeah, there's just certain horses, and I think we all have them, that you get to a point where you're just like, and hopefully people are you get wise enough to where you're like, I can't keep betting this horse.
I mean, that's where like you handicapped this race specifically, and you're like, God, he should win.
I know,
but you just can't back him.
And it's kind of funny too. It's like how strong you are, because I'm like, at first when I went into it and handicapped it, I'm like, there's my boy. I'm gonna take, like, this is it. I'm gonna take him, and then you're like, whoa, hang on.
I just couldn't do it.
Can't do it, not yet. Doesn't help that who he's trained by, so you don't have a lot of confidence there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I was, on that subject, because this is a track where you do have confidence to play Moquette. I was shocked to see in the last 365 days, he's hitting at 8% at Oaklawn. That's wild. Didn't you think that would be much higher? More like 15%?
Yeah, like double.
Yeah, double. Yeah, double. Very very good point. Yep.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have. Check us out at racedudes.com for our free picks and, of course, our premium selections on our products page. Click the Get Racing Dudes premium button at the menu at racingdudes.com to learn more. Quick note, if you guys haven't done it yet, make sure you go to the YouTube page, and you can watch a video from Halterman that kind of explains the picks. And, of course, Halterman's making all the premium picks on the site. So I have kind of an idea behind like what's being done, how the free picks work, how, premium, everything you need to know. So make sure you go check out that video at our YouTube page, just YouTube/Racing Dudes, or search Racing Dudes there to learn more about the picks that we have available for you at racingdudes.com. All right, we're on Twitter at @racing_dudes, Instagram and Facebook. You can find all episodes of Blinkers Off by visiting our podcast page, Apple Podcasts, all the places you listen to. We are there. The Magic Mike Show as well. They'll be live here in an hour, just less than an hour, doing the Gulfstream Pick 5, the late Pick 5 there. So if you're looking for a little bit more analysis, not just of that stakes race we talked about, but the whole Pick 5, the late Pick 5, make sure you stay tuned for the Magic Mike Show. And Halterman and his dad will be live after that with what do you guys got going on this weekend, or for this weekend?
We'll do NFL picks once again, and then we'll do college football bowl weekend opening picks, and then I don't know where we'll go after that. That usually lasts about 45 minutes. So last week, if you've got a second, last week, I won't mention the commenter because I haven't seen him in like a week. We started talking about psychics and ghosts and spirits, and one of our commenters claims that a spirit followed him home from a sketchy hotel when he was traveling, and was with him in his house.
Can you tell me, like, is it someone that comments a lot?
Yeah, it's I mean, yeah. I haven't seen him in a while. But anyway, no, it wasn't Curtis. Curtis, you may have been there maybe for this conversation. It wasn't Curtis. But anyway,
okay, that's interesting.
So he was real sketch on the details, and we kept trying to poke him. He would give us just little minor ones. He's like, "I'm serious," because we were laughing. He's like, "It's not that funny." Like,
is
this
it still there?
I don't think so now. I think now the spirit has left. But yeah, strange. And evidently the spirit tried to make a move on him. Like at first he said what? the spirit made itself known, made its presence known. And I was like, okay. And how? Thinking, not that.
Yeah, like knock something off the wall or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Dennis was there too, and he was freaking out. So anyway,
what did it do?
It made a move on him as he was sleeping. Allegedly. So I don't know what we'll talk about this week after.
Are we sure
that
wasn't wasted or something, and turns out it was like just like his wife or something?
Yeah, like we tried to be like, did you bring home like an actual female or something, and no, it was a spirit. His claim was the spirit was in the room, and it followed him back to his house after he had been there. So
Okay.
I don't know if that's possible or not, but that is what we were talking about for a good 30 minutes to end the show last week. So
Let me
who
just
knows
say,
where we'll go this week, but
so wow, yeah. First of all, your dad it'd be amazing to hear that
Yeah.
analysis from your dad. But listen, like I, I'm super. I don't know if I'm super weird about it because I think it's fairly normal. But like, I don't mess around with that kind of shit. Like, I like watch. Like, I love scary movies and I love like learning about ghost stuff and all that. But I the the moment something the moment someone makes a hit on me or makes a hit on me hits on me, well, if they make a hit on me for sure, but if they
Uh-huh.
hit on me and it's a ghost, I'm out. Like,
Right.
I'm done. And this is no joke. Like, there is a reason why I continue. Like, so I just moved into this house. The house before that, actually, the two houses before this were brand new houses. And it's not like I'm not joking. Like, I specifically look for new houses to make sure that they're not haunted. I'm not
I
like, I mean, yeah, having new houses, there's other reasons, but like
Sure.
that is in my mind where I'm like, if it's a new house, unless it's buried on a, or built on a burial ground, it's, I don't want to mess with it because you get an old house or a used house, you're like, I don't know what's been going on in this house. Like, what is there spirits in here? I'm serious. I know, it's clear when I get in here.
I think, as someone who lived in a house that I think was haunted,
Yours was 100% haunted. Yes.
yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying.
Especially when you live by
You're
yourself.
100% right.
Yeah, when you live by yourself half the time and you got kids, you're like, yeah, I don't want to. Because the bottom line is, if something were to happen, because my always thing when I watch these like these ghost things, and my always thought is like, why are you still there? It's like, oh, well, then one night I woke up and I was attacked with a demon voice in my ear, and then I stayed there for 2 more years. You're like, what? How? Like, I would have been gone that moment and never stepped foot back in there,
Yeah.
And so I'm like, it'll be a pain, and then I have to sell it, and then what do I, it's like, I'll just try to find new houses. So
I mean, yeah, I get it. I definitely, I never had that thought, and I literally never believed in that kind of stuff. And then I had a couple of, I guess, encounters, experiences, something, whatever, however you want to phrase it. And I'm like, yeah, this is kind of a real thing, and I'm very much aware of the situation now. Let's put it that way.
interesting.
If that makes, does that, I mean, I guess if that makes sense, I don't
Makes
know.
sense. Yeah, your old house for sure. Like, there was a vibe there that you're like, yeah, this is interesting. You could tell it was old enough.
Yeah.
And then you could just tell, and then you had some experiences. So
Yeah. And
no one ever like made a move on you, I don't think. But
no, mine was not at all scary or anything like that. But just like, there was a couple times where like whoever it was there. They let us know they were there, in a not scary way, at least.
what? Yeah, Curtis, what would have to be the interest rate for you to stick around in the haunted house? I'd like to know. Like, because interest rates are high now. So like, at what point are you like, well, honey, like I get that this demon attacks you every night, but have you seen interest rates lately?
It's weird, right? I mean, I think that's hilarious. And obviously, if you've seen interest rates lately, you're like, yeah, no, I totally get that.
Well, and the reality is not everybody's fortunate enough to be like they can just make that move, right? Where you're like, oh well, we're just gonna go live somewhere else. Like, some people in those are stuck. They put a life savings or whatever on the line to get this house, and then it's haunted. And you're like, by the way, if you ever buy a house, it's like a mansion, but it's like super old. It's haunted. Don't buy it, because every story or movie, it's like, oh, we got this great deal in this house. It's beautiful. I can't believe it. And you're like, well, it's because it's haunted and people were killed here. So
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if every one of them, but I'm not gonna go that far. But
that's it. You got to operate like it's every one of them, because if you operate like that's all true, like it's baseline true, then it won't happen to you.
I mean, yeah, I mean that's true. Yeah, listen. I'm with you. I would prefer a new house over an older house, and there are other reasons. But like I said, I never believed in any of that stuff, and then it happened where we lived once, and it was real enough that I'm like, I didn't imagine that because I'm not that person. Like I didn't really believe in anything like that, and it's like I didn't make that up in my head. Like that totally happened, and then it happened to Heather too one day. And she was the same way. She's like, I know that happened to me. I was like, it's happened to me, so I get it. Like, and it happened in the same room, and it was the same kind of thing. So
Yeah,
it was just weird. So anyway,
well, you live to tell the story, so that's I believe in ghosts, so I'm with you on that one. I believe in ghosts and demons and all that shit. So like that's what I'm saying. Like I don't fuck around with it. It's just like if it's gonna happen, I'm out. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I get sucked into that kind of stuff. Like I'm very interested, but I also like, there's a reason why we haven't like caught a ghost like walking.
right.
Like it's not. Every time you watch a ghost show, you're like, okay, this is gonna be the same. Like it's like every one of those are the same. But
Yeah,
I'm more interested in like the stories you hear, like where it's like, the random story that no one's talking about, but it's like, oh, my little boy was like, I saw him on the ceiling, like pulled up.
right,
You're like, oh shit.
right.
But anyways,
I knew you'd be into it, and you need to go back and listen to the last part of that show last week. It's
I want to talk. When we get off air, you got to tell me who this was.
Okay. That's fine.
I'm gonna reach out, make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
do a wellness. Would be more afraid of a ghost or a UFO? I would say, oh boy. Well,
UFO for me, 100%.
It depends. Like UFO, are we just seeing it in the sky, or are we like looking in your backyard and you see it like landing? Because if that's the case, I'm 100% UFO. If I see it in the sky, I'm not really concerned yet.
I guess there was no like outside of what was that? I have no explanation for what that laughter I just heard was. That was right in my ear.
Yeah.
But after that, it's like, well, it wasn't. It's not scary. Like they're not. It wasn't a haunting. It was just like a presence, so to speak, which is not that scary because we lived in my grandparents' old house, so I was like, that's just one of my grandparents, and I didn't really think of it much, Yeah. Also, at that house, the dogs would just stare at certain things. Like we had a staircase that kind of went up. It was a split level home. The staircase, and our dog would just stare right up at that staircase at nothing. So anyway, but no, UFO would be my answer.
Something. Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the dog saw it. It was your grandma saying hi or something. So
yeah.
But that's just it. Like with that, you're like, you can almost, even if you don't want to necessarily believe it, you're like, yeah, that was something, but I'm not sure what it was. So I'm not terrified. Now, if it's like you're walking and you get like slammed up against the wall or something, you're like, oh, well, that's kind of terrifying.
Well, then I would be scared. If I was this person that felt like a spirit made a move on me, I would be a little more scared. Absolutely. Yeah.
What would you be concerned though with yourself if you got turned on by it?
I'm not gonna go down. Okay, we're done.
and I liked it. It was weird. It's like, no, that was actually you. You were by yourself. So
I'm not going down that road.
Anyways, all right, guys. This is great conversation. By the way, before we leave, next week, right? Next week is the draft.
Yeah, next week, Thursday, 7:00 Central Time. That'll be the draft. So everybody kind of be prepared for that one. Going to be a lot of fun. We got an extra team this year. So, yeah, going to be a very busy week next week for the show. It's a good week to have it because there's hardly anything going on. Like, I don't know what we would talk about if we didn't have the draft next week. So, yep, next week's the big one.
There you go, December 21st, Thursday, December 21st, 7 p.m. Central. So Blinkers Off will be later in the day. And yeah, everyone, you can bet if you want to tune in for that, Basically, we're just going to give our top 55 at I guess this point this year, 2-year-olds, soon to be 3-year-olds, as we get towards the Kentucky Derby. So we're going to want to stay tuned for that. Yeah, our defending champs will be there. Shoddy, I'm sure they've got something planned as well. Hopefully, it's not something as stupid as what Magic Mike does, but hopefully you can. The bar can be raised because it's so low right now. All right, guys. Until next time, I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Blinkers Off. Join our horse racing community at racingdudes.com and follow us on Twitter at racing_dudes. Want to make money betting horses? Bet with the Racing Dudes.